Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bad Design Podcast presented by The Pick Six. I'm your host, Sean Riley, and this week I have special guest Joe Johnson, Creative Director of the University of South Carolina. Joe, I once again I apologize for how long it took me to kind of get a time and a date set down to finally have this conversation.
Hey man, it's all good, man. I'm just excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, anytime. How long have you been the creative director now at South Carolina? A year?
Yeah, right at a year, and it has flown by since we've gotten here.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. That's got to be very exciting. What? Because my creative director does he does more direction than he does design. Like, what do you do as a creative director at South Carolina?
We have tried to establish like a brand standard or a brand look across the university. They can range in smaller uses such as a in-house presentation that somebody has PowerPoint slides they want to use, all the way up to the season tickets and posters and media guide branding that you'll see across social media.
Okay, so you're hands-on involved in pretty much everything. Like, you're doing the technical work and the direction.
That's correct, and so what we try to do to help out with some of the SIDs is we try to have templates that they can implement into everyday use for the sport that they may be assigned to, whether that be women's basketball or softball, and then whenever we have like an athlete like Asia Wilson doing her thing, then we'll create custom graphics for social media as the awards start to come in.
So you're the director of the entire school, not just football.
That is correct. I try to have we seem like I have my hands in everything right now, and that is definitely coming from Oklahoma State. It's definitely something different.
I'm sure. Wow, I've never talked to someone who's the creative director of the entire school. I've heard people have been like just to the football program or the Ohio State. So wow, that definitely opens things up a little bit more. Man, there must be a lot of people you have to be in communication with on a daily basis then, from almost every department.
That's correct. Work directly with marketing, so I'm always communicating with IMG, the Gamecock Club, for some of their stuff they need, and then the individual sports as needs arise for them as well.
Wow, okay. I feel like the creative director role can be very different depending where you are because it's interesting because the creative director at USA Football, although he does do hands-on design work, I would say more of the focus is on the branding and the direction than doing that hands-on work. Like I said, a lot of his focus is on the brand, and he'll sit in on a lot of meetings with marketing or any of our other departments, kind of get what they're looking for, and then relate that information to us. And that's the creative role I've kind of grown accustomed to. So it's interesting to hear more of your hands-on type of role. Do you have like a team underneath you?
I'm trying to build a team of interns, but at the present, no, not yet. It's so new to South Carolina. I just came in, and we're just trying to get everything in the right direction, and that's definitely something that we want to tackle in the future, and I've kind of voiced that already. And the great thing about South Carolina is we work with such a great group of people, from marketing to the SIDs. It's fairly easy as long as you keep everybody, as long as you're on everybody's schedule, and we've got everybody where they need to be.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can only imagine because I don't have to deal with as many people on a daily basis. I'm just a graphic designer. I have people on top of me who have to deal with all these other departments. So I can only imagine trying to please everyone in every department and the daily challenge of that. Plus coaches on top of that, I'm sure have some sort of say in what they want graphically, on how they want their team presented.
They do, but like I said, the team that I work with, they're so hands on with everything that a lot of that is handled for me. As far as direct dealing with the coaches, and what the direction is, the way they want to communicate their team across social media. So I couldn't do without the SIDs. They're a fantastic group of people.
Oh, that's great. Especially when you're working with a great group of people, it's always makes your job much easier. And
it does.
It really is a team effort for stuff like that, and that's great to hear, though. So you were previously at Oklahoma State, and you worked there as a graphic designer for a year, correct?
That is correct. Got to see the Arkansas waterfall in person, so yeah, it was a great year at Oklahoma State.
Oh, that's very cool. What?
Now, the Arkansas waterfall, that's Gundy's mullet. So
Gundy's mullet. Okay.
Gundy's mullet. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
I've never been in Oklahoma before, so I was going to ask you what is like the attractions in Oklahoma. That's interesting. Gundy's mullet.
Besides the storm chasers and the tornadoes.
Yeah, I was going to say. So did you have to deal with a lot of those when you lived out there?
We dealt with one tornado. The thing that we really dealt with more often than not was the earthquakes, believe it or not.
Really? I didn't know Oklahoma had earthquakes like that.
Yeah, I didn't know Oklahoma had earthquakes like that either. So it was new to me as well. The biggest one that we had was a 6.0 on the morning of game day. I don't really remember who we played after the earthquake. So
wow, you guys still had the game after the earthquake.
We did, and my wife and I, we had an apartment on the third floor, and the higher up you go during an earthquake, the more you feel it, and man, we were moving. So it was.
That's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know how I would deal with that.
Yeah, who needs an alarm clock? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got a nice 6.0 earthquake to wake you up.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You only really hear about earthquakes, I feel like, in California. So that's good to keep in mind if I'm ever in the Oklahoma area that I could experience an earthquake.
You could, and they're without warning. I mean, they just out of nowhere. You're like, okay, well, here we go. And a lot of people said it had to deal with the fracking, like where they're pumping water back into the ground as they're extracting something. I don't know how it works or what the breakdown was, but that was cause of the earthquakes, and I was not sad to see that part go.
I'm sure. So you live where were you originally from then?
I'm originally from Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, so you're from Tallahassee, Florida, and you went to school in Georgia, correct?
I did.
And then you moved to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And now you're
exactly
in
right.
South Carolina. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We moved around some. It's good to be back in the region. Back to where I'm not very far from family here in Columbia. So if we want to go see them, we can do it inside of a day.
Right.
But when you're from like a certain region, you get used to that weather and that type of area. And Oklahoma, it's a great place and great people. It's just different, and to them, earthquakes and tornadoes are an everyday thing, and they're just like, whatever. If one comes this way, we'll just head down to the bottom of Boone Pickens and ride it out. And that's what we did on the day that the tornado came through Stillwater.
Wow. So is Boone Pickens like a earthquake shelter or something like that, or?
Well, so whenever you're in Boone Pickens Stadium, they've got a thing that kind of goes below ground where the team meeting rooms are and stuff like that. It's not on ground level, and so anytime there was a tornado, we thought there may be a tornado, then what we would do, we lived like 10 minutes from the stadium, and so I would just take my family there. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to risk something like that. I mean, that could be extremely dangerous.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's crazy. So then you experience that on game day. How do you work after that? Like I'd be pretty shaken up after a 6.0 earthquake.
Well, I don't remember what time kickoff was, but I remember it was really early in the morning. I think it was around 8:15 or 8:30. So, you're just kind of like, and you wait to see if there's going to be any aftershock. And other than that, you just get ready and go do your thing. I mean, responsibilities are still there and still need to be met, and that's what we did.
Wow. So then at Oklahoma State, other than the earthquakes and working as a graphic designer, What like so? I'm assuming there you got to do more like recruiting graphics. You worked directly with the head coach. I believe I read in your on your site. Uh,
We worked. So what we did is we had my boss was Chris Deal. He would go through. He had like a meeting. I think it was like every other day. And what they would do is the coaches would kind of talk about the needs and the necessities of the recruiting, and then he would come down and he'd say, "Hey, this is kind of what we're looking for," and so we would get that laid out.
okay, okay. So then, what are like the struggles with recruiting? Because I feel like everyone has a different idea, and it's like because I feel like with recruiting you have to be very up to date with what's going on social media and like what pops with the kids. Is that like constant conversation going on?
It is. We're watching social media. It seems like all the time. I had a screen that I positioned vertically. It was just an old monitor, and what I would do is we would get on TweetDeck, and we had a list of all of our recruits, and so we would kind of skim through the thing and see what they were talking about during the day. I remember that when the Pokemon Go app came out, that we did a Pokemon Go thing that made ESPN. The thing was gotta catch them all in reference to the recruits. That did pretty well. Every day, you needed to come up with, I guess, something new, so you're not doing the same thing everybody else did or was doing, or
Right.
it's tough.
Yeah, I always hear because I always love to hear people's stories with recruiting because it seems like it's such a hectic time and it's all year. You're never really off when it comes to recruiting. So I like to hear other people's perspectives, like what they did to kind of freshen it up and keep guys interested. I know you saw recently, obviously Fortnite was blowing up, so every college was trying to take advantage of that opportunity. Ohio State had like this crazy motion graphic of a player flying in, everything you could think of.
Right.
So I always like to see the creativity that comes behind that. But working at Oklahoma State, I'm assuming you went to every single game and were on the sideline, I'm guessing?
We had an office that overlooked the stadium, myself and Forrest Buckner. So we were in that office, and then other people, as were needed, they were possibly in the press box and around the stadium and stuff like that. Pre-game, we were helping out with the recruits that were coming on campus. Just there's a lot of different hats you wear on game day besides just the graphic design position when you're in recruiting.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was going to say, did you have to do photography as well?
I messed with photography, but that was never my thing. Bruce Waterfield there was the photographer, and as far as I know, he still is, and he's fantastic. The photos that he produced from game day were just so easy to work with, and they were always they looked so clean and crisp. And as a graphic designer, that's one thing that I love is getting those sharp, high quality photos.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't have to do a whole lot of editing and lighting and fixing to that type of stuff, and his stuff was just great. So
yeah,
always an asset.
The photographer could be a graphic designer's best friend or worst nightmare.
No, that's what. Shout out to Quant's Photo down here in Columbia, because he kills it when we come into the studio. So he's definitely a great part about Columbia as well. I'm able to bounce ideas off of him, and he'll say, "Hey, maybe we should try this," and we're definitely a good team when it comes to trying to figure out what can we do to make it different, or maybe we can try this look or that look, and we kind of bounce things off each other. So he's a great dude.
Wow, that's great. Did you have a creative director who worked over you at Oklahoma State or no?
Yeah, Chris Deal was my direct boss.
Okay.
His title was creative director out there, and I think he was more on the directing side, like you kind of elaborated to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what his job was to tell us what the coaches were needing, and then myself and Forrest would sit down and try to produce that stuff. Try to make it look professional, but as quickly as possible too, because it's just a never-ending thing.
Right. Is he still the creative director there?
As far as I know, I think he is. I think they got Drew Schossler. I hope I'm saying that right. He came from Houston after I left. He was killing it there. And then I know that Forrest is still out there too, and he's still doing great things. So
Yeah, Oklahoma State is one of those schools I really love what they've been doing for a while now, and that's funny. I actually did not realize you were at Oklahoma State till I looked at your resume a couple days ago. But yeah, you guys do a great job there, and you did a great job there as well. I thought their brand always stuck to what their look was, and I love the look they have. I just think it stands out.
It's very strong. There's no doubt about that for sure.
Right. What have you learned from there? Have you tried to take to South Carolina?
Coming here, the importance of branding. Forrest was a really great teacher in that department. He had been at Auburn before he got to Oklahoma State, and when I first got to Oklahoma State, the whole industry was brand new to me. So, I was trying to do a million different things every day, and he was like, you're outthinking yourself. He's like, this is who Oklahoma State is. This is some of the stuff that you can bounce off of and kind of tie back to who we are. And so, him teaching me that has really been a great thing to be able to bring with me here to South Carolina, because, once you've established that brand and that look, then you're able to build off that while staying inside your look as well, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something I feel like I talk about here every week on the on this podcast, and I don't think people understand how important it really is to have a brand and then to kind of stick to it, but build, like you said, off of it, because it can be very difficult to do, and being consistent and being yourself is what really gets recognized, and it can really resonate with your audience. I
feel like we've really done that with the state concept that we're starting to really churn out, like inside of our posters. That's something that belongs to South Carolina, and that's something that's just ours. So I think that's why the fans have really kind of connected with that.
That's a great example. Anytime you can have something that's your own, and people could stick with that, it's something that definitely resonates with your audience. But that's cool. I've noticed you guys have some. I like the texture you guys use on a lot of your work on social media. What was like the thought process to come to that? Like, how many looks did you kind of go through till you came to this like certain one?
Enough to make my boss pull his hair out when I first got here.
Really?
Yeah. Now, Eric Nichols, he's the chief marketing officer. He's my boss, and when I first got here, I was still kind of searching for that, and one day I was just like, we've got to figure this out, and I started kind of just playing around with different stuff, and that kind of hit with me, and I was like, hey, this isn't bad. And I know that South Carolina is steeped in tradition, and they've never seemed to be the ones that go really wild and outside of the box. And I'm not saying that that's not a bad thing to do here and there, but that they seem to be very, very steep in tradition. And I was like, why take away from that? Why can't we just kind of enhance that through our social media? And so once we hit on that, he was like, I like this a lot. And so it gradually just got stronger and stronger. And so here we are,
Wow. Was that like a conversation you had prior to getting there, or was it something like day one, you're like, okay, we need to develop this first?
I think there was a lot of figuring out what it is that we were going to do when I got here day one. We briefly discussed it when I came down for my interview. But there was a lot of things that we talked about before I got to South Carolina. So it was kind of a gradual, move into, and I'm very happy with where we are right now.
I like the stuff you guys have been turning out. I think you've done a very good job. I gotta ask you, is it difficult to work with that dark red you guys have?
Yeah, very much so. I've learned to use it more as an accent color than a main color. Some garnets, they're relatively simple to incorporate. I don't know what it is about ours, but sometimes it can be tough, and that's just something that we've kind of had to get learned how to use it, how to incorporate it without it just taking over, what it is that we're building out for social media. And and we've done a good job with it. And I know that the garnet's a very big thing here, very important. So we'll continue to do that, and we're not going to shy away from it. We'll just figure out the best ways to use it.
Yeah, I could just imagine, like, I'm a person, I like bright colors. I like things that contrast a lot, and I mean the white definitely plays well with that dark red. I love that recent piece you did with like the players standing on the football field. It was kind of like broken off from the white textured background. I thought that stood out. I mean, miles away. I thought that was very nicely done.
Again, that's shout out to Quant's photo for those fantastic photos that he does.
Yeah, the photography in that was very good.
He makes the job easier for sure. But yeah, it's something that definitely helps, I guess, when you're creating contrast, and that's definitely a color that's pretty easy to use, because that garnet is just, it's so strong, and it's very powerful in different pieces that we've done. So
absolutely. Does your photographer, do you guys have like a setup like in your office or somewhere, and that you're able to have these kids come in and just take a photo shoot real quick, or is it like he has to go?
It's usually, so what we do is Quantz has a studio that's set up across town. So whenever we're going to have a photo shoot, like I'll talk to the SID or to the marketing side, and they'll say, hey, this is when the coach says that is good for the team to come through to get their photos done for the season and for the poster. And then I will be in communication with Quantz. I'll say, hey, what's your week look like? Because sometimes he may be shooting Gronkowski or Russell Westbrook or any of those guys. He's shot a bunch of different celebrities as well. So we have to plan it out and coordinate, and then they'll arrive. We'll have already discussed the uniform that we want to shoot them in, and then we'll just go right into it as soon as they get there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, the
football team's a little different. What we'll do is he'll usually come over, and we'll usually set up somewhere on campus, because football roster is insanely large, so we can't get them inside a studio. It's just not big enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say at USA Football, when we have to do a photo shoot, we have to do it actually in the hotel. We'll have a setup with a green screen and have the photographer come in with his lighting and kind of bring all 50 players through there in probably about 2 hours. And it can be a bit of a nightmare if you don't have someone organizing it and getting all those kids ready and get them stop goofing off.
Kristen Sheets is the graphic designer over at football, and she definitely is an asset when it comes to getting football ready for their photo shoot. She knows what times is the best time for everybody. She coordinates with the coaches. She'll coordinate with equipment. We'll talk about the uniforms. She'll get all that set up. So we've got a really good team in South Carolina. Justin King, Andrew Stewart, Austin Kuhn, Zach Frazee. It's all coming together slowly but surely, for sure.
Oh, that's great, man. That's like we said before, having a great team around you, people who are all on the same page, is just key to success in anything you do in life. So that's huge. I want to talk to you about a little bit of your journey. Like we had talked about earlier before the show, how you got to where you are, because just looking at your resume, you've got to creative director very quickly. I mean, that's a position you need almost like 10 plus years experience. It looks like you only had 2 before you had been offered that role.
So after I got back from Iraq, I went twice, and I had to pay for school somehow, so that's how I did it. I had the GI Bill from the military, and I went into a little local community school in Albany, Georgia, and I was trying to figure out what it was I was going to do. And so I found a little advertisement on Photoshop, and I was like, oh, that's where they make pictures look cool. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. So day one, I go in, and she's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, Photoshop, and I can design things. I was like, so I want to be a sports designer. And she's like, well, that's a great idea. She's like, but it's a tough career. You're probably not going to find that. So, what's your second? And so, it's funny that, a couple years later, I was out of school, and I was working a job, 9-to-5 type thing. I was miserable. And on the weekends, I would do graphics of Florida State football because I was born in Tallahassee and I loved FSU. And Melina Vastola, who is one of FSU's photographers, she would allow me to use her photos for the design work as long as I tagged her in the description and as long as I didn't use her photos commercially, which I never did. So, a couple people started seeing them online. Naturally, the fans would retweet them and stuff like that. And one day I heard from I forgot the coach's name, but he was a wide receivers coach at Penn State. And he said, "Hey, we saw you. We'd like to talk to you about a position." So I filled out my resume, did the application, and Penn State flew me up. I spoke with Michael Hazel, their director of football up there, really cool guy. He showed me around the campus. I got back. I was like, this is it. Finally, I'm going to get there. And they called me back. They told me they went a different way. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And then my wife, God bless her, she wouldn't let me quit. And so I found out that Oklahoma State was hiring. So I did it again. And they flew me up and called me back probably 3 or 4 days after the interview and offered me the position. And here we are, man.
Wow.
It's a crazy story because, I see all these up and coming kids in design and their stuff is so good. And I guess if there's one thing I could tell them that would be beneficial from this podcast besides don't go to Oklahoma because of the earthquakes is, don't ever give up on yourself. Like, don't let people tell you that you can't make it. Right. Because if the desire's there and the talent's there, sooner or later somebody's going to connect it. And I want to be helpful to the next generation because I think that's important as far as them coming up and them getting into the industry as well because we're still in our infancy as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is such a new thing still, it seems like.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like sports design the last 4 to 5 years has upticked so much, especially in college. I feel like it's became much bigger. And I think brands are recognizing, like major organizations, like, listen, we need to have more of a social dominance and we need to have graphics that match our brand. And you're right. You see kids now who are using Photoshop so much younger than I did. And they're learning more. There's YouTube tutorials. There's people who are giving away their techniques. And it's like they are able to soak all this in. And they're 10 times better than I was when I was 16 years old. I barely used Photoshop until I was 18.
Right. And you see it now, and you see these kids and like how young they are, and you're like, holy cow! Where's he going to be in 5 years?
Right.
Because the talent is there already, and I mean they're not even out of high school.
Yeah. Just wait till they get some direction and they understand typography and they got like all the I guess you'd say like treatments down and like all the cool effects I'll call them. They got all that kind of stuff down and it's like, man, they're just pushing us to get even better because they're like they're coming for our jobs.
That's exactly right. You're like, okay, well, you're like, holy cow, this guy here is fantastic. One guy that I'm watching is Jeffrey Rose. He is going to be wherever he lands, they are going to get a great kid. He's got so much talent right now as it is. I can't wait to see him in another couple of years because he's going to be a game changer for somebody.
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten to know Jeffrey a little bit better over the last couple of months, and I've been following his work for a while, but his work is very impressive, and yeah, he's so young still, and I know he's looking for a job right now. I think an internship, and whoever gets him is getting a really talented kid. And one other person I really like, and I talk to him a lot, is Brandon Baker. He was at Air Force just last season, and now he's looking for another job, and I think he does a great job with his treatments and execution. Just unfortunately doesn't have a degree in graphic design.
He posted that photo the other day of something he did of an Air Force helmet, and it had like a blue cloud coming off of it. It looked like half watercolor, and it was a really good look. So yeah, he's I think that some of these guys, they could start freelancing right now for some of these universities. There's just the talent levels there already.
Absolutely.
and like you said, he's definitely another good one, and those two guys are gonna definitely wind up somewhere and be great assets to whoever brings them on board.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point too with graphic design and in general is I'm starting to lack to see why you need a degree, because I feel like kids now, you're able to learn so much on your own, and you could be so good at so much younger age that you could start right out of high school and learn just as much at a full-time job as you could in college.
I've seen that discussion come across Twitter several different times, so it'll be interesting to see how universities handle it. And certainly, it's a topic of discussion right now.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's different if you work for a college, because like that college, I'm assuming, as long as they have graphic design as a major, they can just kind of have you intern there for 4 years or whatever, and then get your degree as well. Whereas, if you try to work for a professional team or any organization, you might not be able to do that because they're going to require that degree.
Right.
But, you see all these people all the time, like Tyson Beck always talks about how he never graduated college and he has all these great freelance opportunities and is obviously a phenomenal artist. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that conversation changes over time, or if we are required to get, master's degrees for some reason.
Yeah, I hear you.
That would be absolutely ridiculous, but the way the world's heading, it seems like everyone's required to get a master's. So it's definitely an interesting conversation that I know I've talked about many times, and many people on Twitter, of course, have that exact same conversation.
Right.
So one thing I saw earlier today, and I can't take credit for it, I thought this was a good conversation starter. Mitch Goldstein had tweeted out, "Hey, employed designers, let's start a thread. What do you know that you wish you knew when you were looking for your first job out of school?" And I saw a lot of great comments on this kind of thread. Is there anything that comes right to mind to you that you're like, I wish I knew this out of college?
Let's see. What do I wish that I know now that I would have known the first day I got out of school? Maybe the workload, the balancing of different projects. I guess that might be one. Yeah, that's probably one.
I would think so. I definitely think that's a fair point. That especially in sports design, I feel like you have a lot more work than I know people who work in like grocery design or a supermarket design, I should say, and I feel like their workload isn't as stressful as sports design. One thing I had said, I had commented on the thread, I thought marketing, like I wish I would have known to take more marketing classes when I was in school, because I feel like marketing design really ties together. I saw one I wanted to point out. I've got to go look through this. Obviously one is connections, getting to know a lot more people in the field. I think that's with any.
I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't made connections across social media. Matt Lange, Ashley Strauss, Mark Majewski at Boston College, they were all vital in me getting to where I am today. They were kind enough to let me use a quote for them on my resume, because when I first came in, I didn't have any experience. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, how am I going to pitch myself to schools? And they're going to go, dude, you haven't done anything. So, I knew that they were really known throughout the industry. And so I hit them up and I was like, hey, if I could just get a quote from you, as far as like, what I might be able to bring to a university. And they were polite enough to help me out there. So they've always been really cool people to be involved with. But like I said, I really appreciate each and every one of those guys helping me along in my career. So, as far as, and it kind of comes back to that circle about, being kind to the next generation. We're here to help. And, I want to be able to say one day, hey, I helped, insert great graphic designer's name here. I introduced them to this school, and I'm so excited for where they are now. And I just want to be that bridge to somebody else, because we've got to pay it forward. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's something I know I try to do a lot. Anytime someone young reaches out to me, I try to help them out in any way they can. Actually, Jeffrey Rose, we were just talking about him yesterday. He had asked me for some advice on his resume, and absolutely, I gave him my time, gave him my 2 cents on what I thought he should fix and change and maybe correct.
Right.
But absolutely, you got to pay it forward, and I agree. I would love to know that I was part of helping the next great graphic designer at
Right.
whatever brand or team they end up working for.
Right.
One of the other things on there real quick was your first job doesn't define your entire career. I think that's a great comment.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like a lot of people, they get in their first job and they're like, oh, I guess this is it for me, or
That's right.
And it's really not. Like, there's so much more to your career than what what you do at first.
I turned 19 in downtown Baghdad, so yeah, your first job does not define your career by any means. So.
No, absolutely. By the way, thank you for your service. I did not know you had served. What were you, military? Did you say? Or
I was Army.
Army? Okay.
I sure was.
Very cool. One of my best friends is actually in the Marines right now. He was over in South Korea a couple months ago. I'm not quite sure where he is now. I think he's over back in his home base in North Carolina.
My brother-in-law is a Marine. He just deployed. I believe it was to, I want to say Afghanistan. I'm not sure, so don't quote me. But those the military guys are so appreciated, and that's one thing that South Carolina has done a great job of. And I was able to see my first thank you veterans type game for football. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of different schools do it, but I've never seen such a show put on as they do in South Carolina. So if you're ever in the area, later in the season for like the day they do the veterans, holy cow, it's unreal.
Really? I wonder, is South Carolina like a big area for veterans? Like, do they have a lot of?
They've got a base here. They're big time with the military. We appreciate those guys and the sacrifices that they make. Taking care of us.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, I've certainly seen a few good honors to veterans ceremonies, but that's something I'll have to look out for next year then.
Absolutely, man.
Was it on TV by any chance?
I believe it was. If not, it's probably somewhere on YouTube because they had a flyover. They had like jets come buzz the stadium. They do a big halftime show, like American flags all over the field, and different formations by the band, and it's really cool.
Very nice, very nice. You said 8 years you did, right, in Afghanistan?
No. I did 2 years. I did 4 years total, and then I did 2 years, or about 2 years in Iraq, deployed, because we went and came back, and then went again one more time.
Okay. Gotcha. And I'm guessing that was, 2010 to 14?
That was 02 to 06. That was during the invasion.
Holy crap, wow. I'm totally off on all my guesses today.
It's all good, man.
Wow, all right, very cool. That's very cool, though. One other random question I gotta ask is, so I know very little about Gamecocks and the mascot for South Carolina. Is that like really a popular like bird or animal, I guess you'd say, in South Carolina?
Everybody loves Cocky here. We can't get enough of that bird. So
really,
he's at baseball games, basketball. Heck yeah, Cocky is. He is a national treasure down here in Columbia.
Now, it's just like a rooster, correct? Like, that's like the definition of what a gamecock
is? I mean, not to me. I think more of the gamecock is more of like an aggressive bird. I don't really think of him as a rooster. I think there's a disconnect there.
Okay.
So, careful when you come down here to Columbia to see us. Don't ask to see the rooster. So.
Don't ask to see the rooster.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So you gotta ask to see the gamecock. Okay.
That's right. You want to see the Gamecocks. Like I said, Cocky. He's always around. So he's a great thing, and my kids love him to death. And it's a great atmosphere, man.
That's funny. So, are you guys the only school with that as your mascot? Like, I can't imagine anyone else has that
Yeah,
one.
I'm fairly certain that yes, that's just us. I've never heard of a Gamecock as a mascot anywhere else.
I don't know. Well, at least you got got that going for you as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
you always hear like the Wildcats. Like I feel like every school in the country is the Wildcats.
It's the Wildcats.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different mascot as far as like how you can incorporate them and brand usage and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Like, so have you guys ever had to incorporate that? And like, is there like any examples you have of where you've incorporated the mascot or anything Gamecocks into what you've done?
The Gamecocks, if you have more than one on a graphic, they always have to be facing each other. They can never be facing outside. So inside the stadium, you'll see them; they'll face each other. We have a feather or tail feathers that we use. We don't use those nearly as much as we use the block C with the Gamecock inside of it. We use it sparingly.
Okay. Is there a reason also that those have to be facing each other? Is it like a fighting thing?
No, it's just a brand thing. I've always been, they need to be facing each other.
Really? I wonder
Yes.
like the reasoning behind that. That's interesting. I'm sure the feathers is something you can do a lot of cool things with as well.
You can, but like I said, it's just something that I've never really brought into stuff. It's kind of more of a what's the word I'm looking for here? You'll see it like on our arenas, like some of our transportation, things like that around the university.
Okay. Very interesting. I will say that they're probably one of my favorite mascots. Like I said, because you guys are unique. It's the only one. My other favorite one is just recently was the University of Baltimore, whatever it was, the school that upset Virginia because they were the Retrievers. Never heard of any other school that's the Retrievers.
Absolutely not.
So,
yeah, and they have the night I was watching that game, I was finding myself looking for gifts with like a golden retriever, and I found one of him just doing circles, and I figured that was very relative to the current situation. So I was like, everybody watching this game right now, and it's just this dog just doing circles as fast as he can. So
their social media guy absolutely killed that night because they gained 100,000 followers on Twitter from just from that one upset. What a great job I felt like they really did. Seizing the moment and using their brand on a national level.
I feel that the way that they went about things, they could do. I don't think that a major university could do that.
True.
You know what I mean? I think what they did, they were like, they're the underdog. It's okay for them to own that, but you're not going to see
Ohio State,
that's right,
Michigan,
or an Alabama or a Texas or anybody like that. They're never gonna go down that road. Because they don't have to.
Yeah. They nor should they ever have to do that.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, you're right. That definitely was more fitting to that university, and because when I don't see any time in the future where University of Baltimore, I forget the name, Baltimore, Maryland. I forget what the C stood for, but they'll probably not be a favorite anytime soon. At least I could imagine.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
How did your guys' season go, by the way, basketball and football? I know you guys you guys beat Michigan, correct, in the bowl game?
We did. That was a fantastic game, especially being in the press box. The press box, when you're up there, it's a working thing, so you're not supposed to cheer. And God bless this lady. She was up there. She's a Michigan fan, and they had just scored a touchdown. They had gone up, I think, like 14, and among like 85 or 90 media members, she goes, "Go Blue!" And like the whole press box turned and just looked at this woman. She covered her mouth. She's like, "Oh my God, I forgot where I was," and that was probably one of the highlights of my trip was that. And then seeing our guys come back and fight back and battle and win that game was really cool. I love going to bowl games and seeing a good game. I got to see when I was at Oklahoma State, I got to see the Colorado mascot come running out of his trailer, and you haven't lived until you've seen like a 900-pound buffalo drag 5 people around a field. So
wow, that sounds like
yeah,
a great experience. I
yeah,
always
they're not running with him. He's pulling them. They're doing their best just to get him back into the trailer when he turns around.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, you guys definitely saw a great game. I'm sure it's always nice to beat a big name school like Michigan too, even if their season, didn't quite go the way they wanted. But what about basketball? You guys do all right in that too, or I wasn't.
I mean, women's basketball they did pretty well. The men, we lost a couple players last season, so more of a rebuilding year.
Okay.
Super excited about football this year. Coach Muschamp and crew are doing a fantastic job, and they're just getting better and better. So I'm really pumped for this year. We got Georgia week 2, so
that's a big one.
It is a big one, and it's going to be a great year for us. I'm super excited.
You guys are in a tough conference, SEC, right?
Yeah, indeed we are, man. There's a lot of heavy hitters down here.
Oh yeah, Georgia, Bama, Auburn.
That's right.
I'm
There's
probably
a lot
missing
of them.
someone. LSU, yeah, a lot of big schools.
You can say for the football team and for the graphic designers.
Yeah, I'm
it
sure.
Seems like, holy cow, man! There's just so much talent in the conference as far as looks and stuff like that. Evan Ford's probably one of my favorite. He's at Tennessee and he does some fantastic stuff. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of different people at a lot of different universities that are really good down here in this conference.
Yeah, you're no kidding. I'm just thinking Alabama, you got I'll never pronounce his name right. Chris
Luis.
Yes.
Yeah, he does really good. Who is it? What is it? Jonathan King in Alabama?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, Jonathan King, yep.
Jonathan King, they've got a really good team there. Yeah, then you got Drew Morris, who just got to Kentucky from Georgia Southern.
Okay.
He's gonna, he's already changing the face of them up there. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really tough. But like I said, the design industry is on a different level. We're always we want to one up each other secretly, but as far as the camaraderie and the friendships that it's so easy to make across social media. It seems like everybody's, they'll always reach out and give you a helping hand if they need to. So that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's not. I feel like it's not like it is competitive, but at the same time, everyone's always willing to help. No one's out to do in the other. You don't see anyone telling you to mask out players with a crop tool or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Trying to throw you the wrong direction or something.
Yep, that's it. Hey, no, what you want to do is just go ahead and change that blue channel to green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a great field. I really enjoy meeting people in the industry, and I think like MLG Connect, like I think that's such a great event. I wish I could go this year, but I don't believe I'll be there. Have you ever been able to attend that?
Not yet. That is definitely on the to-do list, and hopefully the next time it comes around, we'll be able to do that. Yeah,
it's certainly a ton of people go to that, and I've heard it's a great venue to just meet all the creatives, and just have great conversations about design and kind of what you've been doing, But yeah, that's the great thing about our field.
You guys out there in Pixel Land, keep doing great things.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show. Make sure, guys, to follow Joe if you don't follow him already. You have a lot of followers on on Twitter, correct? You have 3,400?
Yeah, I do. I sure do.
Got a nice following. But make sure, guys, if you don't follow Joe already, follow what he's doing at South Carolina at Joe_Gamecock. Once again, Joe, appreciate you for coming on, giving your insight, and apologize again for the inconvenience this had kind of been for the last couple of weeks.
Hey, no, man, it's okay, man. We've all got different things going on, and like I said, it's not a big deal. And after this, we're going outside and we're doing the whole going egg hunting thing. So kids
enjoy it.
Super pumped, yeah.
Yeah, have fun. And so once again, thanks for coming on, guys. That does it for another episode of the Bad Design Podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. See you guys later.